Welcome back to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're going to tell you about David Dooley.
Don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the description for the links of all of our podcast platforms, Cash App, and Buy Me a Coffee. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. Welcome back, everybody.
Tell them friends.
As always, David Dooley.
David Dooley. Those who personally know me probably know what made me look into this case. But once I started looking into it, I couldn't look away, like a train wreck. I needed to know what happened. And this one does have a conclusion, so I should check that box for Darren. I will warn you in advance that this is considered a circumstantial case, so you'll have to decide what you believe. So let's talk about it. We're talking about Michelle Mockbee. She was born in Covington, Kentucky on August 8th of 1969. She was described as kind, generous, friendly, always there for you when you needed help, and she had a smile that could light up Times Square. She liked classic hair bands, made sense since she would have been a teenager in the 80s, so that's like a lot of people's jams from that time and even now.
You know, a lot of people love the 80s hair band, and a lot of people hate them.
They love to hate them. That's what they do.
But I ain't gonna lie, when I'm on my Harley and stuff like that, that's the music that's playing.
Yeah, don't lie to yourself. People embrace it.
Yeah. I mean, even if you say you hate it, there's some kind of music that you listen to that's from the 80s.
Yeah. There's a classic in there.
Yep.
Now, fast forward to 1996, and Michelle gets hired on at Thermo Fisher Scientific. This is a big warehouse and an industrial park in Florence, and they distribute medical and lab supplies. By all accounts, she loved her job. And this is where she met Dan at the company Christmas party. Dan was the shipping supervisor. They fell in love and got married in March of 2001. Everyone says they were happy and always joking around with each other. They said, "I love you," every time they got off the phone. It was just a great relationship, according to those who knew them. By 2012, Dan and Michelle had been married for 11 years. They had 2 daughters, and both still worked at Thermo Fisher. She was described as the logistics support representative. She was basically HR. She was the office coordinator, and she was over payroll. She had been there for 16 years at this point. But her kids were her life. So when this case happened, people got online and posted things like that she liked a breakfast of Diet Coke and Pop-Tarts. Awesome. But someone also mentioned Michelle was involved with some world record ice cream cone that sent me down a whole different rabbit hole, completely unrelated to this case. Now, while I couldn't find what that person was talking about, I did come across a great debate regarding ice cream cones. Apparently, some say it's illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket in the state of Kentucky.
I mean, why would they even do that?
Yeah.
If they have an ice cream cone, I'm eating it.
Yeah, eat it. Why are you putting it in your back pocket?
Maybe that's the world record.
I don't know. So I'm like Googling ice cream cones in Kentucky, and this is what I find. I was like, okay.
Yeah, maybe she carried it furthest in her back pocket.
She broke the law the most.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually find a law saying that you can't do that, but belief is that it came from back in the day when horse thieves would put ice cream cones in their back pocket to lure people's horses away and steal them. So there's a fun little fact for you. Never stop learning, people. This brings us to May 29th of 2012. Just after 7 a.m., a call comes in to 911 from Ed at Thermo Fisher. He says, "I just walked into our office, and I think somebody killed somebody upstairs in our office." The operator asked him what made him think that somebody would killed somebody, and Ed says, "She's laying there on the ground, covered up, and there's blood all over the floor and the office." He goes on to say he thinks it's Michelle Mockbee, and her whole body is covered in plastic. He can't see her head or anything. It was him and the maintenance man, Dave, that was up there at the time.
Must have been pretty bad if there was that much blood.
Right. It was very bad, actually. There was no chance that 42-year-old Michelle was alive. First responders arrived and find Michelle in what they call the mezzanine. It is part of the upstairs office area, and they believe that that's where she died. Her hands were bound behind her. She was face down, and there was a bag over her head that was covered in blood. Now, while they believe she died in the mezzanine, it didn't start there. What started all of this was Ed got to work at 6:45 a.m. and he went straight to his office. About 15 minutes later, so just about 7 o'clock, someone sees a stain on the carpet in the hallway. So he was like, "Yo, Ed, what's this stain?" He looks at it and says it looks like blood. So they call up the janitor, Dave, because at this point, he had already been there cleaning for a couple of hours. So they asked him if that spot was there when he cleaned upstairs that morning, and it wasn't. So they start looking and see blood going down the hallway. They follow it and find Michelle's body.
So it all started in the hallway.
Right. The theory is that she was attacked there, probably knocked out, and then dragged down that hallway and around the corner into the mezzanine where she was bound and beaten to death. So police are on the scene, trying to find out what the hell is going on, when Michelle's husband, Dan, shows up about an hour and a half after the body was found. The employees had been calling him, telling him that the police were at the warehouse and weren't letting them go in. He tried to call Michelle to see what was going on, but she wasn't answering the phone. So when he gets to the scene, the police have to tell him that Michelle has been murdered. Like, as he's just sitting there. That's so heartbreaking. And he was devastated. They said he put his head in his hands, he leaned back in his chair, and he just sobbed. While investigating and talking to Dan, they find out that Michelle usually clocks into work at 8 a.m. But this was the first day of their girls' summer break from school. So she came in early to do payroll so that she could leave early to hang out with her family. So that morning, she had actually got there at around 5:53 a.m. And she got the time cards when she came in the door. Then she went up to her office. The police go to her office and find that the door is still locked. So now they know that she hadn't even made it into her office yet when she had been attacked. But the big problem here was her door was damaged because someone had tried to get into her office.
But not with a key.
Definitely not with a key. They damaged the shit out of the door where the lock was. So the first person they're going to look at is, of course, the husband, Dan. He was off that day, and he was at home with the girls waiting for Michelle to get home. But he was completely devastated, understandably. And he was very cooperative. I'll go ahead and jump forward a little bit on him because he took a polygraph the next day and passed. He gave them full access to search whatever they wanted. And he gave them a breakdown of his time starting the day before, and they were able to verify everything. So he was pretty much excluded right away. Her office door was the only door that was damaged. And since she was HR and payroll, the fellow employees are next on the list. Now, before I get that one comment or DM, I know she's not a bank. She doesn't have a vault of cash in her office just because she does payroll. She's not paying people their weekly pay with little sacks with dollar signs on them. But she has records. And who would be most likely to have an interest in those records? Well, it would have to be the employees of the company. So that's how they got there. And this was so early in the morning that there were only 13 other employees there on shift when police arrived. So they start running background checks on the 13 people to see if anyone has a criminal history. Because they looked at everyone there, checked hands, clothes, and shoes for any blood spatter. Because with that much blood on the scene, it'd be pretty hard for the killer to keep it off of them. But no one had any visible blood on them. So they have to start running background checks. And 2 pop hot.
And then there were 2.
Yep. One was the new guy. He was actually so new that they were still waiting for a background check that the company was having done.
And there's where the paperwork comes in.
He was worried that once they found out that he had a pass, that he was going to be fired.
Okay.
The other guy was the maintenance man, Dave.
Dave, who found the body. That Dave.
That Dave. It was that Dave. And old David Dooley was fidgety and nervous that morning, according to coworkers. He's had a couple of prison stints for burglary, theft by deception, receiving stolen property, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He and his wife, Janet, were contracted to clean at Thermo Fisher. Janet wasn't there that day, but remember, Dave had already been there cleaning for a couple of hours before Michelle got there. Police thought it was odd that he wasn't sweaty or dirty if he had been in there cleaning a warehouse for 2 hours.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about janitorial stuff. He's not in there freaking working on a diesel engine.
You're right. But it still stuck out to them. Like, why are you not sweaty, or why do you not look like you've been at work? You look fresh. Why do you look so fresh? Anyways, looking around the warehouse so far in the investigation had made the police dirty. So they were already dirty just being there. So him being sparkly clean kind of stuck out to them. They interviewed Dave at the scene, and they release him with everyone else that afternoon. Like, they just questioned him and then sent him on home. Unfortunately for the investigation, Thermo Fisher didn't have surveillance cameras, but they did share a building with a company that did. So they look at their CCTV footage, which shows part of the parking lot that they share. And at about 6:30 a.m., they see a red truck leave the parking lot. It's weird since people are actually coming to work at that time, not leaving work. That truck comes back into the parking lot about 30 minutes later at 7 a.m., shortly before Michelle was found and 911 was called.
Does Dave drive a red truck?
Dave drove that red truck. So they talked to Dave again the next day because he didn't mention that he had left that morning, and they had talked to him the day of the murder. So it would have been fresh on his mind to say, when they're like, tell me about your morning, he would have said, I had to leave and go to this and come back. He never said that. And so they're like, hey, what happened? He says, oh yeah, what had happened was I couldn't get a hold of Janet, right, his wife. So I went home real quick to make sure that she was okay. He didn't think anything about it when he was giving his first statement. So they asked Janet when she saw Dave on the day of the murder. And she told them, oh, it had been sometime in the afternoon when he came home after the cops released everybody from the warehouse. So not between 6:30 and 7 in the morning. Janet, did you not get the memo? Police would later interview Janet again, a couple of times, and her story would change. First, she didn't see him that morning. Then she did, but she forgot because he had come home to change his pants because he had ripped them. Now, when confronted with his story that he only came home to check on Janet, she told them that she was hard of hearing, so she didn't hear exactly what he said. But she saw his ripped pants and figured that that's why he came home.
Well, get your story straight, Janet.
She's all over the damn place. But the police figure the truth is that he came home, cleaned up, and got back to the warehouse just in time for Ed to call him to ask about the blood stain on the carpet in the hallway. Now, they are full on investigating Dave. And I think this is a good spot to take a minute to hear from today's sponsor.
If you're in a heated argument with your dryer, don't worry. You'll both cool down eventually. Or maybe you just need a washer and dryer. Don't get agitated. Take a load off.
Get your laundry set from My Laundry Solutions and let them iron out your problems. If you live in an apartment, get your set from them. They service them, and they have locations in Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. The most recent area is Lubbock, Texas, around the Tech Terrace area, with more locations coming soon.
So give them a call today, 800-535-4411.
Or go online to mylaundrysolutions.com.
And let them wash your troubles away. Give them a shout.
Well, Amy takes a drink.
Oh.
My bad.
Amy come lately here.
Yes. Okay, so Dave and Janet's stories are not lining up. So, police searched his truck, apartment, and garage, but didn't find anything. Nothing. But looking into his contract work at the warehouse, they found something very interesting. It seems that Dave and Janet had a little racket going. They found out that Janet had only been on site at the company 2 times in May of 2012, yet somehow she managed to claim overtime every day.
Nice.
Yeah. So when Dave would go to work, he would clock himself in, and then he would clock Janet in too. And they felt like that was a pretty good motive for needing to get into that HR office.
Yeah.
Belief was that Michelle was suspicious that something might be going on with those two. And then maybe Dave, while they're cleaning that morning and thinking he was alone, was using the time to try to break into her office with a screwdriver or something. But Michelle came in early that day. She usually doesn't come in until 8. So coming in early surprised him. He likely hit her in the hallway, knocking her out, and then dragged her down the hallway into the mezzanine. And he decided that he had to go ahead and kill her because he was really in trouble now. Then he drove home, changed, cleaned himself up, and came back to work thinking that no one would notice.
I can see how they got there.
Yeah. We've seen more ridiculous theories in these cases that we cover.
Yeah.
But this one seemed to hold some weight. Now, they just have to prove it. Or do they? So 4 months after the murder, on September 22nd of 2012, Dave is charged with her murder. Also, he's charged with kidnapping, because you can't just tie somebody up, and tampering with evidence.
For removing the body?
No, for removing something from her body.
Oh.
Remember at the beginning when I said that she got there that morning to do payroll early and she got the time cards when she came in and then went upstairs?
Took time cards.
They never found Dave or Janet's time cards. So they believe that he took them from Michelle's body after he killed her. So now Dave's in jail and Janet's on the news crying that David is innocent. She only gets to see him for 45 minutes a week.
Oh.
And it's through glass.
Oh my God.
And Dave is saying he's innocent too. He pled not guilty, and they go to trial at the end of 2014. The medical examiner goes through the horrific injuries to Michelle. He would say that when examining someone like her with skull fractures, brain bleeds, her nose looking like a fighter because there was a slit on it, like when you get hit and the skin breaks open. There were bruises and cuts from her body being dragged down the hallway. You get the picture. He says you don't always have a clear-cut indication of an exact murder weapon, but he believed that she had been beaten to death with an industrial tape gun, like the one that has the handle.
Damn.
Yeah, it was brutal. And they played into his defense.
Like the handle, what do you mean? Or
like the ones that have the handle.
Okay.
Like the tape guns that have a handle and you put it on the box and shink, like people who do it all day, every day.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he could have held it and.
Damn.
Yeah. Tough. And he used this in his defense. Like, how could he do that? Have a bloody crime scene where he drug her down the hallway, leaving a trail, and not have a drop of blood or any DNA in his truck, apartment, his garage. There's a thing called transfer. So if you've got blood on you, if you got blood on your shoe or something like that, and you step on something or on your floorboard or something, it can transfer over. But he had nothing. Also, they found DNA at the scene that didn't match Michelle or David, of course, because they're in a public place. But they didn't test that to see if it belonged to anybody else.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they were thinking that maybe because this was a public space in the warehouse that they wouldn't be able to narrow it down. Makes sense. But they didn't even try. Prosecution was basically like, he's a janitor. He has access to all these cleaning supplies. He knows how to clean up. The defense also brought up that someone had tripped the alarm at the warehouse on Saturday, 3 days before the murder. So someone had been trying to get into the building.
Okay.
And they don't know who, but couldn't that have been like a possible burglar and he came back after the doors were opened or something? So they're showing that there's, like, since there's no physical evidence, there's obviously reasonable doubt because you're not tying a lot of stuff to him except the time cards.
Yeah.
So naturally, the jury finds him guilty of murder. So they're like, we don't need any more evidence. He went home and took a shower. Okay, that's all we need to know. The jury found him guilty of murder and tampering with evidence, but not guilty of kidnapping. So make that make sense. He said in his sentencing that he felt railroaded and said that people lied on him in court. Like people just jumped on the bandwagon. As soon as the cops were like, it's Dave, they're like, well, let me tell you some stuff about Dave, and just got up there and lied. The judge sentenced him to life. So it was 38 years for the murder and then 5 more years for tampering with evidence. And that's all in this case. I'm just kidding. The case is not over yet.
Yeah, it's appeal time.
Word. It was 2 years later that he appealed. The judge ordered that his sentence be thrown out, and he was granted a new trial.
Well, that doesn't happen all the time.
Nope.
What did it?
The prosecutor in the first trial was Linda Talley.
Mm-hmm.
She apparently fired one of her law clerks, Nick Rambler. And no one fires Nick Rambler. He's got receipts in the form of a thumb drive with about 13 gigabytes of data, most of which were text messages. You'd see things like a text from Prosecutor Talley to another person saying she may have come home and may have talked to her husband, who was a district judge, and that a certain defendant may have his bond increased from $500 surety bond to a $10,000 cash bond. And then it happened. So she's like in her husband judge's ear, like, hey, this person needs their shit increased. And he's like, increased? Done. And that's not allowed. You're not allowed to do that. Not the bond increase. Of course, they can do that. But her talking to her husband and getting things changed while they're at home, that's the problem.
Who's the judge?
It's just a different judge.
That's what I'm saying, but...
Not his judge.
No, but
right.
I said, but who's the actual judge? Her or him?
Him.
Well, sounds like she's the judge.
I get you.
She's telling him what to do.
Yeah, she's pulling them strings.
Yeah.
But the most interesting thing that they found related to our case was her affair with the lead detective. Okay. They both had come to court to testify. He admitted to having a sexual relationship with Prosecutor Talley, but said it was after David's trial.
Sure.
They were just friends during the trial.
Sure.
But Ms. Talley testified that she didn't find out that the detectives had video footage of another person at the scene until months after the trial. So it was already said and done by the time she got that information. This random dude, and that's how they all referred to him, not just me, is random dude.
So who's random dude?
It's literally a guy on that same camera angle from the other company's CCTV who walked into the parking lot, went under the awning, so they speculate that he could have been trying to open the door at Thermo Fisher, and then he keeps walking. Now, this is in the evening before the murder. To be precise, it was like 10 hours before the murder. They say that to this day, they haven't identified him, but prosecutors say that it was a random truck driver, so they know that much. I don't know how. They would have had to look into him a little bit, or else they just made it up, so I'm not sure where that came from. Talley said that even though she found out about this months after Dave's trial, it didn't change the case at all. But it kind of does. Because that put somebody else there that maybe his DNA matched the DNA they couldn't match. Anyways.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a letter from Talley to lead detective McVeigh, I think was his name, saying, now that I know what a complete fucking liar you are, I'm going to grapple with the fucking ethical issues with every case in which you were involved. Not to mention the fact that you let me go through a complete fucking murder trial without telling me the truth about that video. And now that I know it, what the fuck am I supposed to do now?
I bet inmates are coming out of the woodworks now.
You're damn right. Like, you get a new trial.
That's the whole thing. I mean, so this David Dooley,
mm-hmm.
he's already out. You know, he's already done a stint or whatever in prison.
He's still in prison.
No. Before this.
Oh, right. He had prior charges.
So that's what it is that they was like, oh, he's been in prison.
Right, for
Obviously,
burglary.
he's our man.
Right, and they stopped there.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what he's saying happened. That's why whenever I said it earlier, I said they were profiling.
Nope, yeah, I know.
That's exactly
That's why I was like, oh, I see what you're doing.
I see you. So in Dave's new trial, they have the surveillance footage of random dude, so they can now show it. Defense also brings in the fact that they couldn't prove that any of the DNA was from him that was at the crime scene. They couldn't say whether it was or wasn't, so it was inconclusive. So they're like, you can't prove it. So either way. Defense also brings the fact, sorry, that was bad, that she had that bag over her head. There's nothing on that bag that points to Dave. Also, they found a screwdriver that Dave had access to. So they tested that, but the samples were too small. So they're trying to pin all this on him, but they just can't make it work. Prosecutors did try to say that the screwdriver that they tested matched the markings on the door, but a screwdriver is pretty universal. You've seen one, you've seen most. So you can't really say, hey, that's the exact screwdriver. You can't do that. And the detective offered up an alternative suspect, Michelle's husband, Dan. He says Dan knew her schedule, knew she would be going in early that morning. He got a $700,000 life insurance payout, of which he took out just over $200,000 in cash withdrawals. So they speculate that he could have used that to, I don't know, pay a hitman, is what they're saying. He had a scrubber program on his computer to delete data. And Michelle allegedly had visited the eHarmony website on her work and home computers as recently as 2 months before her death, indicating maybe she was having an affair or two.
All motives that we have seen before.
Yep. So that's what they're doing. They're like, there's so many things you could have looked into and you didn't. So after all this, the jury finds Dave guilty again for murder. They don't care about all this other stuff. He is now sentenced to 43 years, making him eligible for parole in 2032. Now, some of you may say that, yes, he was railroaded. They have no evidence. Correction. No real evidence against him. Some may say that what they did was enough. Like, that's all they needed. But I feel like most of us are about to get on the same page when it comes to old Dave. On October 26th of 2020, Dave took a plea deal on some new charges, stemming from what they found from way back between 2004 and 2007. I won't go into detail, but he pled guilty to 2 charges of unlawful transaction with a minor in the second degree for having and making CSAM. He got 2 whopping terms of 5 years each for those. So I feel safe to say that regardless of how you feel about the murder case, most of us can agree that he's still a piece of shit. At least I do. And that's the end of this case. Sadly, 2 girls had to grow up without their mom for basically no reason at all that we can see.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have all the evidence, or it just depends on what you believe, I guess.
Yeah.
You got any final thoughts?
Nope. Not on this one.
Okay. If you like our content and want to contribute, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell to get notifications. We do have Cash App at $MWTM pod.
And we also have Buy Me a Coffee at /MWTM. And as always, don't forget to tell your friends. Until next time, we'll see you.
Bye.